So I thought it might be nice to go over an analysis of some of the games that were played in the recent Clash and just sort of look at it from both sides and explain sort of what the thought process was. So in this first game, I've gone with a very small army, a very small starting army with a very specific idea, which is one, I'm going to capture the side point and hopefully do some shenanigans with the Centaurs and the Changebringers. So my assumption was that I would put one guy on the point. We would get some small force to reinforce, and then some combination of the Zangors and the Centaurs and the Changebringers would be able to kind of counteract that. Um, like for example, if there's an Empire Knight, then the Centaur will trade well into the Empire Knight. Um, and so you can see I've deployed over here the starting force, and the idea is that I'll take this Changebringer over here. Um, didn't exactly work like that in the game. One big thing to note is that House when we actually played this game twice, and the first time when we were playing, my dog actually decided to vomit right at the beginning of the game, which was pretty unfortunate. And so it was right about the first engage. So I resigned. I told HouseCat he could take the game if he wanted, but he chose to replay it so that we could maybe give a little bit of a better show to the viewers. So that was very kind of him. But yeah, so looking back at the game, just thinking about the builds for a second. So yeah, I'm going to greedily take all 3 points. HouseCat didn't deploy close to this, so I'll basically get them all three for free, for at least for a little bit, which gives me a pretty big time margin for the kind of play style that I'm end up doing, which is more skirm heavy. And looking at HouseCat's build, so he's gone with a lot of cap weight, which I think in the end of the game wins him, because I can't compete with this many full capture weight infantry. And he's taken the light wizard with the Shem's burning gaze and net of Amatok. This was like not on my radar at all. This is actually a really good counter to the Changebringers, because now the change to the magic missiles distributes the shots. So that was something that was kind of unexpected. I think I realized at the end that the Luminarch is actually a counter tech for the for Soul Grinder, because the Soul Grinders got buffed, and I didn't really think about how much better Soul Grinders were. I think might have been aware of the change, or maybe I wasn't aware for the Soul Grinders, but I think that's what this is specifically for. And then maybe the Silver Bullets also as like a Silver Bullet and the Huntsman are also kind of anti-Changebringer tech. Tang, a lot of people were talking about Tang being kind of like an off-meta pick. I would argue that Tang is the only right choice as the meta stands right now with Empire, because even though HouseCat didn't bring land ships or steam tanks, I think land ships and steam tanks are incredibly strong, even in this matchup, because blues and pinks can't do damage to the land ship. They just, they'll shoot for a really long time. It has 90 armor, so most of this is non-AP shooting, and so they won't really do much of a difference. Soul Grinders kind of chip away, but very slowly. And I didn't want to be in a situation where like I had to basically have something like this happen, where I had to try to turn a Soul Grinder into clearing chaff. So Satang felt like the right choice. He is 3k, and so it is very expensive, but in this game it kind of worked out. So you can see like my idea kind of gets thwarted. This was a bug, because the Huntsmen actually do a pretty good job keeping off both of these units, but I do get a couple free shots, and I do grab the points, which ends up giving 100-200 point lead at the beginning. This is just a little cheekiness. Some people are criticizing this. I don't know this is necessarily the wrong idea. The Changebringer just wants to get its value off quickly, and I don't need to get a full value with the Changebringer if I can keep it alive. But in this case, it doesn't end up being the case, because I actually didn't check the I didn't check that there is net on the wizard, and that ended up costing me a lot. As well as the huntsman range is actually a lot further, and I forgot that they had fire while moving, so that makes it a little harder. But okay, so the state of this battle. Now I'm sending all of my troops over here because he's so wide that I felt like I needed to match the width, at least to get some things to counter the huntsman. And I've pulled my two Zangors over to kind of like reinforce the center. This ended up being a mistake again because of the net, and I didn't really fully anticipate how strong the net was. Um, but yeah, so I just see like, okay, I'm gonna be able to clean up these huntsmen. Well, there are actually four huntsmen, and these are unarmored, so they just get completely destroyed by huntsmen. They're not a very good diving piece. And I thought that the pink fire with the charge at the same time would be enough to rout these two units, but it doesn't end up being the case. So they basically, the pink fire goes off, Centaurs go in, they don't. But I do notice that all of his huntsmen, now he has 5 huntsmen, which is pretty insane. I realized that all of his huntsmen and all of his missiles are pulled into one side. So even though this Centaur gets absolutely destroyed, Centaur with the net goes down, and gets charged by Knights of the Black Rose. I see that, okay, now I can swing the Changebringers around. I'll notice it at some point to the other side. And still just like trading with the Setang. So Setang is his job is just to kill the Luminarch, which he does a pretty good job of. And yeah, and I'm just still building up the mass, but I'm looking for our pinks to kill Huntsmen, because until that happens, I feel like I'm going to be really struggling to make some damage. And you can see, like, because I captured those points at the beginning, we're still even here at this point of the game with quite an amount of time. A little bit cheeky poke. The Luminarch is almost dead. He had a little bit of luck with the Luminarch this game because it came back on pretty low leadership. So it goes off with 480 at 10%, a little over 10%, but it does return and doesn't go very far. And so Setang is like, all right, what else can I shoot? Setang's actually pretty good at shooting the little guys. And so what HouseCat is doing here, spreading basically across the points, basically denies all flanks, and which it ends up being kind of annoying, as well as like repositioning his huntsman after I got a little bit more damage with the Changebringer. You see the Luminarch came back like almost immediately, barely any distance. Silver bullets, I kind of prioritized killing silver bullets, but that might have been a little bit of a slow. So okay, now I'm engaging. And I engage across. I don't need to win the front line. Sorry, I don't need to flank as much in this situation because because my pink should be able to kill pretty definitively the huntsman. It's sort of like what the pinks are going to be good at. But the cav work on the side ends up being really difficult to deal with, and he is good micro and he pulls him back through. And so the majority of the game happens right now. I need to win. I need to win relatively soon. Value is pretty close. So this engagement has to go well for me. And it kind of does not materialize. Like, okay, I'm getting in. My Screamers kind of got really bad engagement, so the Knights of the Black Rose actually end up having a lot of room to maneuver. Luminarch is coming back in. Light Wizard is still alive, so my Changebringers die because that gets netted, and he gets Shem's Burning Gazed, as well as getting shot by the Engineer, so this unit was going to go kill this Great Sword unit, but does not get the opportunity. I decide to use the spell here to save a little time, so I keep shooting at the Light Wizard, and again the Light Wizard comes back almost immediately. So there was this funny thing of like units running out of the range of Satang just to, or just yeah. See, it immediately comes back,
One of your units
which
has
was
been.
definitely annoying. But okay, the front line won. My troops should be able to beat the spearman front line pretty easily, but this is now a problem. You need to deal with this. We have more Knights of the Black Rose coming in, and they'll basically run amok. My Screamers are kind of out of position. Centaurs are coming in to countercharge. The Satan comes in to help. But this unit is going to be a problem. So I kind of like just at this point of the game, and another one's coming in. Just don't really have the right tools to deal with the right the right tools at the right time. And also this wizard has pretty much already gotten all of its value off. So even though I've put a lot of value into killing the wizard, um, it's not really been that impactful. And one other thing about Satang, I absolutely should have unsummoned Satang. I didn't think about that until after the game, but I needed cap weight. And you can see I need cap weight very soon. I'll cross the triple point in maybe um, a short period of time. And I just like don't really have the right infantry in the right places. This also kind of cost me. But you can see like his really wide formation actually kept me off the point. So even though I'm like winning a lot of these frontline engagements, I've not been able to recap the point, and that ends up being like really valuable time that's lost. Um, and yeah, and his Cav micro is really good in this game. He did a great job in kind of like shutting down my dives with his dives. A couple times he had sort of things lost. There were a couple knights that were lost. But in general, really strong. So Satang has already gotten 3.3 value. He's killed the Luminart. He's killed the Light Wizard. He's gotten some pot shots at other units like the. Um, but I am going to lose on from lack of infantry and lack of map control. So if I had unsummoned this value difference with an extra, I don't know, 1300 from the unsummon, would have probably put me over the top and would have given me at the right time. Because again, the triple cap scenario, basically once the triple cap scenario happens, when the value is so close, um, I'm just probably going to lose because it's really hard to come back with a triple cap when you don't have a large margin. And so I see a lot of my stuff is routing. So I decided that okay, I've got pink horrors in the front, two pink horrors in the front. I basically had to go back, but at this point in the game, it's already over. This sort of seals the deal. Like if I was able to regain any momentum, I just like I don't have the time anymore. Seiting it does end up providing like a kind of useful AP terror source, um, but it's sort of too little, too late, and the rest of it kind of plays out. So I get a little bit of forward momentum. In my head, I'm thinking, "Oh, I have time to go win still," because I'm used to being, like a minute shorter on the clock. But it was not enough time. So that is GG. First game goes to HouseCat. And I'm not gonna look at the values. The values were kind of so Luminart did poorly. Changebringers did okay, but not worth it. I lost a lot of value with my Centaurs. Frontline did okay, but not great. Satang did pretty good, and Screamers did okay. So I think really HouseCat won this game through having taken a really wide engage, and then having his archers in the right place at the right time, and then being very good with the knight. So basically, he just stuck on the point, couldn't be moved. So game two, this is now a must-win scenario. I played Chaos Dwarves, Greenskins, and I've had really good success with this matchup in the past because Greenskins have a really hard time dealing with terror, and they don't have anything to shut down missiles. So, and especially on this map, where the map was like a lot of the concentration of force goes to point 3 because of it's hard to get missiles to shoot into point 3. It used to be that the points were wider, um, but they've been moved closer. There's actually a second version of the map. So now it's easier to go from point 1 to point 2. So my game plan here is to rush, put some guys in there, get most of my stuff to engage here. And HouseCat has kind of like solved this problem in a really interesting way of kind of sitting here with the bring of the giant. I didn't realize how much damage the giant would do to the trains, but it actually connects very well, and it's actually a pretty good tool against the trains. I hadn't seen this before, so this was like I was playing it 3 times against top players. This was kind of one of the more interesting takes that I'd seen. But yeah, but this death streak position is just incredibly good. So I felt pretty good going into this matchup. I would say that HouseCat played it better than I had anticipated, but because I had so much success, I wasn't expecting too much difficulty here. So I kind of just stick stuff here to kind of say, okay, you're gonna push some guys up, but I'm going to have enough cap weight to hold you off for a little bit and maybe plan on swinging the trains around. He's brought Shem's Burning Gaze, double Shem's Burning Gaze casters, or Vindictive Glare, sorry, which is a great idea for train killing. And he puts a lot of LOM into killing the trains, and it ends up being pretty cost effective. Oh, he even did the Don't Even Try It, which also did a lot of damage. Burning Head in this game is kind of unnecessary. I was hoping that it would curve around here, and it did all a little bit, not quite. But yeah, the trains are just so good at killing infantry. In this one engagement, they've already done quite a lot. And the Bale Taurus characters are really good. So 3 giant sources of terror. But yeah, but look how much damage that the combination of the Shem's Burning Gaze, the Giant, and the Don't Even Try It had done. Just really high levels of damage. So, okay, he's come over here now, and I realize, okay, my units are probably not going to win this. Savage Orcs do a fair bit of damage, so I'm going to try to allocate some troops around. I choose these 2, which might not have been the best. I might have needed 1 more to deal with this, but in kind of the first engagement, he's done a lot of damage on the train, but I've killed a lot of his infantry, so it's hard to say that it has gone too poorly. And I went with a lot of cheap guys this time, but I think I could have gotten away with a little more. So anyways, I clean up this side. I switch to the giant. This unit is going to be a problem at some point. He starts summoning calves, so I'm summoning the bull centaurs. The bull centaurs are pretty good against the big guns. You see a little bit of ring around the rosy there. These actually do a lot of damage against cav. This was kind of interesting. And this was maybe a mistake in the end, but I wanted to like push some of these off, but it was maybe not necessary. Maybe just stay over here. And so yeah, so I've almost cleared off the point, but he kind of is regrouped. But now I have real infantry there. And so I'll eventually win this point. And so I'm kind of saying, okay, I can focus now on just having good trades. His giant will eventually die. It'll take a very long time. These do like 500 a pop or something, but so it's taking a long time, but eventually we'll get it. So we've really switched to Cav, both of us have kind of switched to Cav. I need to capture this point and this point. I still have time, but I need either the trains or the bull centaurs to clear most of the cap now, and I need kind of to get some force over here. So I'm kind of running out of time a little bit. HouseCat is trading up, but I would say that the state of the battlefield is pretty good for me. In a lot of ways, Biggins aren't particularly good, and he's not even summoning the Biggins. They're actually not particularly good against Chaos Dwarfs because we have armored infantry that does fairly well into them. It's not really a sustained fighting kind of unit. And the bull centaurs do very well. And so now, okay, yeah, I'm down value, but I'm feeling really good about this. This looks scary, but because I have the, this is also unfortunate. This will do some scatter fire. I have really, basically this unit can kill that unit, that unit, that unit, maybe that unit as well with the terror. Because boar boys, they don't have very good leadership, and so when they get to like half health, they tend to rout, especially when they're rear charges, which is what this unit is intending to do, just to provide extra little debuff. So this kind of breaks the back right here. Like I wouldn't say the house cat was winning. It might kind of feel like it, or like just looking at the value, it kind of feels like it. Another thing to consider is this character has a lot of healing. He's been healing nonstop with the Chalice of Blood and Darkness, and I have kind of like all the right units in the right places. So this blob actually kind of loses this chain route here. Kind of loses House Cat the game, or rather, this is sort of the turning point of the rest of the game. And one kind of interesting thing to notice is that a lot of the units that are left on the battlefield are not infantry for the greenskins. So HouseCat starts summoning in some infantry now, but essentially we're all Biggins. Where I have the Bull Centaurs, a couple of tattered units of infantry, and the big chain, or the terror routing causing monster, as well as this still shooting, even though he's getting poked away by the Night Goblin Shaman. And so, like this, why exactly did this happen? Well, the Bale Taurus character is very good at causing these, but just sort of like the rear charge of the fast units combined with the DPS causing unit, along with some of the spray shooting, turn the tide. But yeah, it's interesting to see that like these sort of low leadership units, once they break, there's really like not much left, and the way that they break and the way that they're running away provides for some easy, relatively easy chase here. And yeah, so at this point of the game, I'm feeling pretty good. I have more cap weight to recap the point. I still have enough time on the points. And I have a full health Bull Centaur unit, which really counters a lot of, well, that and the terror causing monster really counters a lot of what's left. The Bull Centaur plus the terror can probably, take off 2 or 3 times the value of this one unit, or at least quite a lot. And yeah, I get another burning head here. I was trying to drive. I was really trying to catch these two, but I threw it on these as well to try to maybe get them to route a little quicker. But they're already so tattered; they're kind of not incredibly effective. And yeah, so it's at this point. I know that I have time. So I'm going to kind of reinforce this point relatively soon. But yeah, so now I know that I can kind of hunker down on these two objectives. And so now the trick to it is sort of just staying alive long enough for that to work. He puts his cav into the center. he has to pick like one side to attack, and so this makes sense. But you'll see what I was talking about here with the combination of Bull Centaurs and the Bale Taurus character. Bull Centaurs actually do fairly well into the Savage Orc Boys because they're similar size, and so a lot of Cav are smaller than Orc Boar Boys, so they take extra damage from impact. But but they Bull Centaurs don't, so they actually trade pretty well into them. And then I kind of just sort of the game kind of uh, finishes, so to speak. Like the last chances of HouseCat kind of end here with this burning head. I roast a little bit of my own unit, but completely killed 2 units of Orc Boys. Ends up being enough. And then I decide, like, sort of, I have enough of an advantage. I'm feeling kind of confident, and I decide at this point to take point one to try for point one as well. This was definitely unnecessary. I could have played it safer, but I felt the margin was big enough that I might as well do it. This character kills the Death Streak. It was kind of nice. HouseCat said during the game or after the game that maybe if he had focused down the Death Streak, the giant would have stayed alive and put more damage on my character in the train. There is some truth to that. Like that logic kind of works out. The only thing with it that might not work as well is that the then the trains would probably still be alive. So it's kind of hard to say if that's like a better order of operation because there's just so much to kill, which is why this matchup I think is a little hard for greenskins. There's so much the greenskins have to prioritize. And anyways, here what I'm doing, I know that I'm not taking good fights with this, but I'm just pushing him back into his spawn to buy myself some time so that I can just reinforce and consolidate. And he doesn't really have very easy ways of dealing with this at this point of the game. And you see the value is now fairly similar within 800, but again, the heal cap, this guy is in sight, so it's really so odd feeling. And yeah, the rest of it kind of plays out. I eventually win this, but one of the nice parts about going to this point is that all of your units that you're summon through the home point. So it's kind of a safer strategy. It's not as dangerous to. I start reinforcing this point, and yeah, the game is pretty much over at this point. And I'll just let the rest of it play out, but I put these guys in the trees to give them a little bit of an extra bonus against large things going through, because they get a buff and large things get a debuff. Sorry, the large things get a debuff, speed and melee attack when they fight in the trees. And the unit that I summoned earlier is there in time. This point actually flips too. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I knew it. Unending glory is your...
To look at the values real quick, so the Lord did very well. This sort of like triple. So like I was saying, he prioritized killing the trains, which is why the trains didn't get that much value. And I actually put they're a little bit more expensive than usual because I put the physical resist and the vigor buff on them. And this got a little bit more value. So yeah, maybe this would have gotten less value, but these would have gotten more value. It's just hard for the greenskins to kill everything. Giant, where it connected, it did pretty well, but it's just so slow sometimes. The casters did pretty good with their missile spell. This did okay. These did well. The Cav did pretty subpar, which I think was representative of how much damage the Terror. I think that this guy also might do more damage to those kind of units. Bull Centaurs did well, not amazing, but pretty well. And yeah, so this was a good game, and going on to the next one. Okay, so Housecat and I are in a must-win situation here, um, for all the marbles, and I am opening the theory of this build is that the long rifles do the DPS, the cannons protect the long rifles from bolt throwers, and the infantry just holds long enough to last. And Housecat's kind of going for more of like a melee style with dark shards, which are pretty good into great swords, and they're just a reasonably good archer unit. And then the dragon, which does a lot of disruption in the game, as you'll see. So the very classic style here, an unsummoned Geld, she's 300 gold, so you only take a 150 penalty to have no lord. Um, I wanted that because I wanted a wider army so that I could protect my range, because I'm investing so heavily in range. I wanted as much. Um, these Outriders prove to be really useful. They capture points, they kill things, highly recommended for anybody. They're actually a really good skirmish unit, it seems, but not very good at range, so they'd like to be up close with their. But they have firewall moving. Um, yeah. So okay, so the very standard approach with these these kind of factions, shooting factions, is to like stay up here on this hill. You can see there's a little hill there. So they're pretty good firing range, and your opponent has to fight uphill, which gives them a debuff. Um, yeah, so the beginning is just skirmish. I may become a little too far forward. It's hard to say for sure, but I'm now just trying to like fill in my ranks a little bit. So I'm trying to bring in the Empire Knights to make sure that I capture the second point and that the poke isn't very good. Um, and yeah, now I'm bringing a lot of spears and cheap stuff just to fill in the gaps because I know that what's going to happen, as almost always happens, when you play like this kind of matchup, especially the way that Housecat is playing it, that there's going to be a lot of troops and they're going to be coming towards you, and it's going to be really difficult to hold because everything kind of happens in one time when you have these build-up approaches. Um, and so I'm just trying to fill in the gaps. I do actually manage to capture this. These aren't really able to take it away from the Outrider. Outriders pretty much killed 550 worth of Dark Riders or whatever Dark Riders cost because they're both half health. And me capturing this one point here wins me the game because Housecat doesn't notice that he doesn't fully capture it later. So I'm actually gonna slow-mo through that moment because that becomes so pivotal when he just barely doesn't
You
capture
have the
the
foe's
point.
victory point.
Um, yeah, looking at my build, I have a lot, but I almost want more. I almost want more just to fill in the gaps because, like I said, the the long rifles, they end up being they're intended to be all of the DPS for my entire army. So I need them to stay online, and just like the more bodies to block would be really helpful. Here I'm poking because I want to, well, one, buy as much time as possible, but two, it's really annoying as an attacking player to have like some of your units getting um, body blocked and pushed out of the way, and some of them not, because you really want to engage the whole side at once so that everything kind of it's at maximum pressure on the defender. Um, but I'm just I'm just gonna keep doing this. The one thing that Housecat does very well here is putting the Dark Raiders around the side. He goes really deep with them, which ends up being kind of annoying. Not like game breaking, but annoying. Because the white line is here, by the way, you can't actually fit a whole unit there. It would be very difficult to put one. I maybe even could have moved the Spearman all the way over. Um, yeah, and I guess this is a little bit of a mistake. Okay, so here is the point. So what's happening here? Housecat is trying as hard as he can to micro all of these units at once. He's trying to catch my my Empire Knights. He's just summoning. He's trying to flank. He's trying to minimize the amount of time that he's spending getting shot by the long rifles. And what he's not doing is paying attention to this point getting taken. And one thing that I would really encourage people, don't plan on moving your don't plan on capturing while you move through it. In general, that's a good recipe for getting in trouble in this kind of way. So, you might say like, okay, if I move my infantry from here to here, like maybe it'll be enough time to capture that point. Just don't play that game. Just sit it there and then watch it to see if you get the notification, or just sit it there and then move at a later date. Because the help that this one bleak sword unit would have done to attacking my position was much less than the amount of points that I get from this one point. Um, and yeah, so I would say about the exact way that I positioned, I would say this is I could have even done maybe a little closer and say, okay, like I'm not going to give you any points, or sorry, I'm going to give you all of the points and just say that my shooting is going to be online for long enough to help. One thing that I've done very poorly is see how close these are all together. What that equates to is that when the dragon dives in a second, dives into me, he'll be able to soul stealer this whole blob. And I'm not sure if I don't think he gets to the third one, but they should be further apart. And like this kind of wide formation maybe is not as good as a thicker formation. But this unit, I swear, this unit is absolutely busted. I think there's something wrong with it. I think it's doing more damage than it's claiming to, um, because it just does so much damage on just a few shots. Like this is like one volley from them. Granted, it is three of them, but basically two volleys from three kills an entire Dark Shard, and two volleys from three killed a Black Arc Corsair. So the amount of DPS that these units do is just insane. The Shield Breaker is a very nice addition too, which is why I specifically brought this one to kill Dark Shards. So yeah, and then so this is such a classic approach where we're just coming in from like all angles and trying the hardest to defend. It's really hard to do. In fact, I would say this is probably a losing strategy in a lot of games, just because the attacking player always seems to have such a big advantage when they have such a big numerical advantage. I think also the cannons were a really big mistake. They actually did okay in value in the end, but the I think I should have put them in reserve. I was really worried about the bolt throwers, and then HouseCat hasn't brought a single one. But two and a half spearmen would have been really helpful, as we'll see in a second. Okay, so I blocked here with some cav. This is a very good maneuver to just stop up. But okay, so with the Crows of Cain and the dragon, we've now basically locked up this whole thing, and this unit basically dies. So a very short, still insane damage in that period of time, but a very short life for these. And I had stationed this by so that I could move this back, but what I hadn't anticipated was how tricky it would be to do this when I'm managing like units over here, units here, and that little bit of time, like the Crows of Cain basically kill it in 10 seconds. So a little bit unfortunate. And yeah, so the dragon is kind of occupying these. Like I said, you basically cannot easily get these through. So these spears are doing a fantastic job just holding the line. Great swords, bad positioning. Dark shards are doing a really good job killing the great swords. So honestly, I probably, if I did this again, I would cut the great swords and just get more chaff. Just because the long rifles just do so much damage on their own. You really don't need any other unit. One other thing that turned mentioned when he was watching this game, but I disagreed with was he was asking a couple times like why I wasn't shooting the was why I wasn't trying to invest more in killing the sorceress. Like for example, maybe I could be shooting with the outriders. It's just like always a trap to try to kill the dragon with the healing because it's such a hard thing to do. So you always have to make kind of like an executive decision about am I going to invest in killing this? And I think the right decision here is just to like continue to try to hold as long as possible because I need to. I'm getting a little bit overrun now. Like some of my spears have routed, so the front line is kind of looking a little tattered. And yeah, so I need to invest all my. I thought at the time I needed to invest all my stuff in. Uh, yeah, and honestly, like, so the value is still my way, but it's kind of that point just before things get really tough. He's kind of found ways in, um, and yeah, the units are still pretty occupied. Now we found a little hole over here. And my burning heads were not very good this game. I guess that one was pretty decent, but a lot of them were not amazing. And I have to use pretty expensive cav to block up blobs of infantry, which is never that good. I shut down one dive, but in general, yeah, like what do I have? Okay, so he has a few healthy infantry, not a lot, mostly just cav and bleak swords and a couple tattered units here and there. But none of my missiles are really online. Like this unit is still here. This one is routing. This one is routed or dead. Um, and yeah, it's not looking so hot. I need like more bodies. I need either more bodies or to still have my missiles on online. And I think it was close to this point in the game that I'm thinking like, okay, this is not going so hot. I mean, looking at it now, it does look okay. But that I was feeling that it was not going well. And so I start saving up either now or relatively soon for the land ship because I feel like, oh, I need something to win the game. But we'll see what my next summon is if it is just the land ship. It's interesting to see that I was up 1k in value because I guess it's hard to see, but a lot of this stuff is pretty tattered. And I'm thinking of, oh, this is a big part of why I'm thinking of I'm losing. Um, I'm triple capped in my brain. I'm not actually triple capped because of this one. Um, but I'm thinking, okay, like I have an internal clock in my head and it's saying, okay, well, time is ticking down pretty quickly. So I need to get on the points and I need to get on the points pretty soon. I don't have a lot of time to value trade. So I thought I needed to come back. Also, another comment about the Cold One Knights. They're a really difficult unit to get rid of. Empire doesn't have anti-large cavalry, and so I kind of that's unfortunate. So I need something to shut this down. I don't have that great of options. You can see I spent a lot of the game too just running with my cav from the from the AP cav that basically kills everything. And yeah, so what had looked okay now is looking a lot worse because it's like the one unit that can dominate. And then here is the land ship. And then just one other comment about like charging the land ship into Cold One Knights. With the full power, it does actually a lot of damage on the charge. We see a couple of times, I just let it sit in the thing that's supposed to be good at killing it because when it's very close to a unit, it does a lot of damage by shooting at it on the sides. And yeah, and another idea of the land ship is, okay, I didn't summon at the beginning because of the dark shards. But in the later game, it's a lot harder to like get concentrated shooting. And so I just say, okay, I'm just gonna basically run into your dark shards. You'll see in a second. I spent a lot of the rest of the game just kind of jumping in up in their face, which ends up being like a really effective strategy. Okay, so again, like looking at the points, I should not be so close to not needing a triple, to needing a, for him to need a triple cap, but it's just this one point that made all the difference. This was probably a mistake. I probably should just get it hiding in the trees and sniping. But then the landship basically carries for the rest of the game. I mean, I would say there's not a lot to be talked about except that I just will choose very shortly, like, and you see the value changed a lot when the Cold One Knights came out. Yeah, see we had 3 units of Cold One Knights, and they make a lot of sense in this kind of middle game. And I try to like drag them through spears a couple times, but then they kind of ignore the spears, and which ends up being really annoying. And yeah, so it's basically like, okay, I've lost. HouseCat has pulled back a lot of the value just by kind of cleaning up and having better mobility than me. And the only kind of redeeming grace is that this landship is just insane value. It's just shooting the whole time, blasts through pretty much everything. It's my only real answer to the Cold One Knights now. And yeah, so I've said, okay, I'm in kind of a desperate situation. Maybe the landship can get me enough value, but I need points. And so I'm like, okay, I'll go capture this point. And HouseCat says, oh, I'll go defend this point. In reality, I didn't need to capture it, and HouseCat didn't need or needed to finish capturing it. So this is what I was talking about. We'll just like look at the dynamics of this real quick. So it's shooting basically point blank shots into a lot of the Cold One Knights. So maybe they're getting good value against it, but this is just going to be getting constant damage against this anti-large cav, which I would say is probably a bit of a problem because they don't really connect very well with small things. Rarely connect well with large things. You see, they get kind of janky. And yeah, so I'm making this decision at this point that I'm going to capture that point, and I'm thinking, oh, I need to capture more points. I've checked the thing by now and say, oh, I do have a little bit of time, but I'd still need to capture a second one. So I'm going to the second point, and I'm not pushing to capture the third one. And yeah, and the rest of it is just sort of using the landship to. He never recaptures it, so that's another big deal too. Yeah, so I really just need to capture 0.2 for a very short period of time. And the units that I brought there are strong enough to hold. And so yeah, so I'm just saying, okay, I have a lot of shitty cap weight. Your bleak swords will probably dominate these spearmen, but because I have so many of them, I'll capture it really quickly. Yeah, and so the landship does get over its value, not by a ton, but enough to make the difference, and killing the dark shards was really helpful, and the Cold One Knights that I was saying I had a very big problem getting rid of. And so yeah, I mean, it's almost, I think I need it to hold this for like 20 more seconds or 15 more seconds before it's a single cap situation. And I do manage to do that. And the rest is just kind of like, this was kind of an interesting moment. I like rear charged the Cold One Knights, knowing that the Empire Knights would trade down, but I thought that they would still win. It just took a long time. Yeah, so he captures it, but by that point it's way too late, and I've got a lot of stuff on the point, and we end up winning by maybe down like 1.5 or 2k value with the dragon's healing. So yeah, so I mean, this was a really interesting battle. Like there were a lot of things that I could have done better, such as picking a little better of a engagement over here and picking a little better range tools. And HouseCat obviously had the glaring error of moving across as opposed to sitting on it and capturing it. Um, but the middle game was really interesting because we had this dynamic between the Cold One Knights and the land ship. So his Cold One Knights beat most of my knights and things, but the land ship was able to beat them. So there's some really interesting like dynamics in this game. So, anyways, thank you for watching. This is my first attempt at doing any kind of video. Definitely let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions or things you'd like to see done differently or things you'd like to see in general. Yep. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon to talk about the series that I did with Tim.